way to you now. You could just
Hello.
About to go live.
Deep breath.
Ooh, hold on. Let's see.
We've got this.
Yes,
Happy.
and I just remembered. Put the link in our Okay, I'm about to hit the live button, so then we'll officially begin. We felt weird.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Nice to see you all.
On Facebook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mama Genius Hub podcast. We are going today with the Workshop for Moms group as we are going to talk about mompreneurs. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is one of the groups that we don't necessarily always talk to, which is the in-betweenpreneurs. What the heck does that mean? We're talking about the moms who are not just quite getting started. They've probably taken one or maybe two huge programs from some big person, but they're not quite to the other end of the spectrum where they feel like they're successful, where they're making it. So this is really directed at you today because I feel like a lot of you are not quite there. And we want to throw that support out there for you because I feel like I can be in that bucket a little bit. I feel some of the people in this room might be in that bucket a little bit, but it's really that we create that community that we can really move forward and keep making sure that your voice doesn't get squashed. That's the key to this, is because it's about us as women growing and becoming and sharing that message that is deep within inside of us. And that's why I brought on this wonderful panel today to help me make sure that you get the tools needed to keep going. Because this is to make sure that you don't give up. We need your voice in this world. It was given to you. You have this desire inside of you. It needs to come out. And you know what? As I'm saying these words outside, I'm reminding myself at this particular moment not to give up. So this is us doing this together. It's working together. So I'm bringing on this wonderful panel with me right now to help support, because it's about the support and coming together to do it. So my first panelist that I am bringing up is Josie Laporte Freeborn. Josie specializes in coaching mom entrepreneurs, nurturing their sales confidence, breaking through limiting beliefs, and helping them discover their unique superpower. Her integrative approach to business and wellness draws from her certification as reflexology and holistic healthcare practitioner. Welcome, Josie. We're so happy to have you today. Wow, am I tongue-tied today?
It
But that's what we
happens
do.
to all.
We just keep moving forward because we're moms, right? Where it's going to happen to us and we're going to keep moving forward. I'm going to bring up Margie Haddad. She's an international public relations expert, the general manager of the Must Have Communication and Consulting. Margie's an author, award-winning TV producer, and as well as a coach and speaker on how to apply public relations strategies to parenting, life, and careers. Welcome, Margie. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here and to have this very, very important conversation.
And we have Patrice Porter, known as the gardening grandma, is a master cultivator who nourishes the timeless art of gardening while sowing the seeds of survival skills in the future generations. With her expertise, she not only teaches the art of growing fresh and nourishing foods, but also tends the growth of the resilient families and the dedicated parenting support coach. Welcome today, Patrice.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here and part of this panel.
And we have Mandy McAllister, who left behind a thriving career in sales to boldly embrace a path of financial independence through her real estate investing in 2021. What a time period to do it. With an unwavering commitment to helping others achieve financial freedom and success, Mandy's carved out a unique place in the world of mindset coaching and real estate investment. Oh, I'm so happy to pick your brain today.
Oh, hi guys. I am excited to be here. Very, very excited. Thank you.
And we have Ren Roberts. She's a business coach and creator of financial freedom and joy, teaching women tech skills they need to be successful online entrepreneurs while being a single mom of 3 adopted kids. Welcome, Ren.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here and share with everyone one of my favorite things, which is entrepreneurship. And I'm so happy to take you over and get some more success.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you on today. And let's dive right into it because we're really honing in on the mompreneur. And you know what? It can be such a lonely path because we're in the midst of motherhood as well as sorry, are we having I need to backtrack for a minute. Is Tracy coming on today? I don't have a bio. You didn't add it to the list. We have Tracy Cheney, who is a dedicated teacher, award-winning teacher, has been on the atmosphere forever. Her goal in life is to help those little ones really figure out what is the way to scribe and the ways to make sure that you are kindergarten ready when it comes to it. And her passion is really to make sure that moms know all these aspects as well. And then so her gift as a mompreneur is to really get that out there for everyone. Welcome, Tracy. I apologize, little missive with the message, but we are so happy to have you on as well. Welcome, everyone. So now we're going to dive right in. As we dive in, let's talk about the ideas, because really we want to make sure that in this role of mompreneur, that we're able to, and I hate the word balance. I'm going to throw that out there. We're not balancing. We're trying to create a rhythm in our life that works for each one of us. Because when we have those balance, we have this scale and it has to be equal. And that puts pressure on, even more pressure on us. So let's talk about the art of rhythm and how I just want to give each of you a chance to share how you've brought that into your own life with motherhood, and just give some of your own stories as just to introduce yourself and get started before we dive into some of these tips that we can give moms. So I'll just go through the run and we'll start with Josie.
That's an excellent, excellent statement and question too, Michelle, because it is, in our minds as moms, I have to balance it all. I have to balance having both. And the reality is it's impossible to create an equal balance. And what I have discovered even in my own mompreneurship adventure is that, and the reason why I chose to be an entrepreneur and work for myself is because I committed to myself and to my kids and my husband that my kids and family will come first. And for me, the balance is not trying to work my business and my family equally at the same time. It's if my kids have needs, that I'm going to be able to be there for them because I'm an entrepreneur, so that I can actually feel better and more confident and not have guilt in my life. And then I can be the best mom when I need to be the best mom and show up. Quick example, my son is homesick today with a sore throat, but he's home and I can still work because he's set up, he's good to go. I don't have to take a day off and I can still be present for my kids as they're needed and my business. So I feel good all around. And I don't feel like there's that balance because it's ebbs and flows. Sometimes my kid, my husband, my family, my life takes more attention from me and I have to back away from my business. But I went into my entrepreneurship knowing that, and I'm good with that. And that's what makes me feel good about being a mom entrepreneur. And I hope my kids see it too. I think we couldn't hear you, Michelle.
We'll go right over to Margie, but I love that, Josie, how you brought that in and taking away that word balance, but how it works for you and even with your son being home. Margie, what would you like to add?
Well, I've been in public relations for 30 years, and I raised all 3 of my kids using my public relations expertise and experience, using the practices, the strategies, and the tactics that we used at the office. So for me, the balance, I'm not looking for something that's equal as much as just something that works and works at that particular moment. And what I would do is the same respect
that I would give my clients if they called me at a funny time when I was home with the kids. You know, if somebody calls you at an odd time, you go, oh my goodness, what's going on? I should really pick that up. And then the kids knew that if I needed to pick up a call, it was okay and it was time to be quiet until mommy was finished. And if they happened to call when I was driving a carpool, I would say, okay, you're on the line. Hello, just want you to know that there's 7 kids in the car. I had a big car at the time for the carpool days. And everyone would go, shh, 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 mommy's on a call. And I would say to the client, I just want you to know that the kids can hear you. If you want to have this discussion now, great. If not, we can defer to later. And then if I were at work and the kids would call, I would excuse myself because the kids wouldn't call unless there was something immediate and urgent. So what I would try to do is I would try to help rather than handle. And instead of brushing them off and creating frustration, which leads to a temper tantrum, I would try to get to the core of the issue as quickly as possible, problem solve in a matter of minutes. And then after that, my child was satisfied that they got their due attention, and then I would return to the business meeting. And by the way, my children are now in their 20s, and I still get calls in the middle of the day when I might be in the middle of an interview with a client. You just have to balance what works at that moment. And nothing has to be perfect. You just do the best that you can without any guilt.
I love that so much, though, how you made a statement that I was there to help. So like whatever side it's there to figure out who needs your help at that moment and how to make that happen. And just being so, I don't know what word I'm looking for
Present.
right.
It's called being present. I gave the same respect to my children that I gave to the office and vice versa. And that's what I would call PR parenting. That's the whole concept. That's one of the concepts and the themes. Bring your superpowers home and be respectful wherever you go, and to wear one hat and bring your full self to whatever you do.
I love that so much, the word presence. Thank you for giving that to me because it was escaping my mouth at the moment. But it is really being present with whatever we chose to be. And as moms, it is so easy to multitask and so easy to get distracted from what we're doing, but choosing to be present with whoever is in front of us at that moment, whether it be a client or a child or whatever needs your help at that moment. Patrice, what would you like to add?
I'd like to, I see it more as blending. So I started my entrepreneurial journey after I had my son, and I was building our home and within the community and everything. And I was working at an outside job, but then I wanted to start a business of my own. And so I had my family was set, and it is just like what Josie says, the family comes first. And it's a matter of having that, your priorities straight, and your values, knowing what's important and matters to you. So I blended my business and working within the family that I had created. And it really came down to being very conscious in what you're doing, knowing that your quality family time is really important to you. And so you consciously make that effort that this comes about, knowing that you want to have a successful business, and you're consciously, setting the boundaries that you can work at your business also. So I like to see it more as blending it into the family.
What a great word of like blending it all together, mixing it all together. And I love how you brought in the idea of values and really making sure that you are setting those and then making your decisions based off of that. Because a lot of times we don't put that in front of us first, and we just kind of have a generic idea of what our values might be, but we don't define it. And I always feel like that's one of the first steps for women, is really define what are those values. Then you have something to make a decision against. It makes it easier for you to then decide, does this work for me or does this not work for me? Mandy, love to hear what you have to add.
Both my parents were self-employed, so this entrepreneurship thing has always been in my bones, but I went the right path and did all of the degrees that you're supposed to do and ended up in medical device sales. So when I started my family, I was on call. I didn't go to medical school because I didn't want to be on call. And then I ended up on call with medical device sales. So I had to wait for Dr. So-and-so to finish the procedure so I could go be with my kid. Right. And then I realized I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to be beholden. So I began with the end in mind. So you absolutely can set up your business to serve you rather than you continually having to serve your business. So really putting that thought into how will things run so that I get to show up exactly how I want to show up. And, I started my, building my business as a medical device sales rep. So I really kind of had 2 full-time jobs and a brand new baby and was a single mom, right? So one little hack that helped me to really get to this be present, like that's something that I completely believe in, right? But in practice, it's hard, guys. It's real hard. So a thing that I did is I just time blocked my days. And I knew that, even if I just had 2 hours on the schedule that I'm going to play Legos, I knew that I'm going to play Legos and that phone is away and there is no touching the phone. So when I was doing that extra hour to build my business, I had no mom guilt because I knew we were going to play Legos in just an hour, right? So when you know it's coming, you can let yourself off the hook in a big way. We can't hear you.
I keep forgetting to hit the little thing. I try to put mute and then I love the idea of though having the end in mind, because I think that's what scares us sometimes is we're not sure what that end's going to look like. And then I know that for me, like that's been part of it that kind of scares you a little bit. You don't know what that's going to look like. So I know some of those moms out there might actually have fear of success as well because they don't picture what that will look like. And so putting that picture in what you want, how you want it to look like, will help you attain that, what that ever looks like for you. What does success actually look like for you? Because each of that is different for us. Some of us might want a multi-million-dollar company. Some of us might just want, a small 6 figures just to give us that freedom. What does that word freedom look like for you to obtain it and to start putting that picture into place? Let's go over to you, Ren.
For me, I found with entrepreneurship, that's a lifestyle of mine. And first it started out with, I had a petting zoo and it was like, yay, I have kids. And I needed to work all weekend in the petting zoo and realized that was not going to be a successful aspect. So I ended up selling that company to have more freedom and went into online businesses. So that's where I found, that family priority. And then also really leaning into the phrase and understanding it does take a village. And so I was a single mom in Hawaii with no family and looking at the little pieces that I could pull, like loving the bus service. Hallelujah. So things like that. And so in that sense, the time that my daughter went on her bus, then I would go to the beach, have my moment, and then I'd come back and work until the bus came back. So that really worked. Well, then flip it around and it's during the pandemic and she's homeschooled and we're in California. Then it was looking at a totally different pace and putting different boundaries. So I'm so grateful for that flexibility. It didn't need to rearrange anything really in my department when the pandemic hit. It just shifted priorities. And then as the world opened up, it became, okay, PE is going to the amusement park because we walk a lot there. And then also relying on, hey, grandparents, could you help take her to dance classes? So what she ended up doing was having a different dance class every day of the week. And at first, that really hit my entrepreneurial schedule. So then when I was able to ask my village for support and, okay, well, one grandparent could take her to this class, a different grandparent could take her to this class, then I freed up more of my workday back and my daughter still got to have an amazing experience. So that's what I rely on you all. Don't be solo in any realms. Ask and give support, and that really makes a huge difference.
I love that you remind us of it takes a village, but at times it felt like, we've heard that and might feel like a cliche to you, but it really, when you take it to heart, it's how can you ask for help? Because that sometimes is the hardest part. You have no problem giving people help, but sometimes it's like receiving it or asking for it that becomes the idea. And so I love that you remind us it's something we need to make sure that we're establishing, and why we're even doing these panels and things is to have that village, have that community for each other. Tracy, what would you like to add?
So I think like a lot of moms, when you're raising kids, first you had to have the decision, are we doing daycare? Are we, all of those considerations, the financial considerations. So I was home, but we still needing to, some income. And looking at where in my day that could work. Well, yes, and we've all said school. So when the kids are at school, yes, that's ideal. But I found that niche time between kids getting out of school and 6 o'clock. It was like, well, that was a time, this is before internet. There were a lot of latchkey kids, and this was before everybody was jumping into after school programs. And so I saw in our community a real need for attending to that. So my child could come along because that was going to be needing care too. It's like, do you put her in care and everything else? No, I provided it, but built a business that was doing latchkey. So it was looking at the time in my schedule where there was a need is basically, and what was the need. And so developed a business that really went so fast. And I had 5 employees, and it went for like 7 years of being able to offer after school art program. Because since I was an art teacher, that would be logical. And they were at that time beginning to cut art programs because we were concerned about technology and we needed computer labs. So there goes all your art programs. So picking up art teachers and picking up that and developing that at schools, it was me finding a niche where there was a need, and the time worked for our family. So then it's like, well, then we have late dinner, and actually what we came to was on Sundays we cooked 2 casseroles, and we ate casseroles all week long. And you have to find what works in your family, and that's how we made that work. When I went back to teaching then full time, in about 2006, I was early on the internet and developing when it was easy to do websites and nobody was really on there, and getting some books written and getting a website. And I can tell you now, it is so much more difficult. That worked, at that time. So I think you just have to look at where your times are, where you can actually devote time to your business, whether it's a bricks and mortar or it's an online business. And just that online business, to me, in having been part of this evolution, has really gotten so much more complicated and time consuming. And I think we have to be realistic about time. So people have talked about balance and blending and all of that. And that to me is where the crunch is looking at where you actually have that time to be able to devote to a part-time business. Or granted, we'd like it to be full-time, but getting started is where's that time, and protect that time. And we talked, Mandy mentioned time blocking, for lots of moms with kids in school, that's going to be your time. It's just mine came after that time.
Well, Tracy, you kind of led us into the next topic. So we kind of wanted to give everyone a background of each of the speakers. Now we're going to go into our 5 actual breakdowns of kind of giving some practical advice on these topics. So our first topic, actually, Tracy brought us right into, is that time management struggle, and really feeling like we're not sure how to do that. I want to have a caveat on time before we get started with that, is that time is also relative. It's relative to how long something is going to take you. So you got to keep in mind, if you need to write an email, that email could take you 15 minutes or it could take you 2 hours. So it kind of also depends on your mindset and things involved when you are doing these tasks. I want to keep that in mind as we talk about time management. Is when we're thinking about time, we're thinking about how long it takes you to do a specific task that needs to get done, which might be different than, oh, I need 5 hours to just do one thing. So you want to keep that in mind as we're doing. So let me run through some of the topics for each of you to just kind of, what I'm going to ask is each of you just to share your name and then your tip for any of these topics, as I'm just going to kind of run through them and give a general overview. And I'm just going to open it up to the panel to kind of pop in as they see fit, just making sure that if someone's done talking, you say your name first, so everyone, especially listening to the audio, can know who's who, because there's so many powerful, beautiful women on this panel right now. I'm so happy to have you here. So let me just run through some of the topics right now. So we're talking about the multiple responsibilities, the demands of business versus parenting, how to establish those clear boundaries, how to limit uninterrupted work time when you need it, and the big one, overcoming how to say yes too often. And then again, that priority task and time blocking. So feel free to talk on any of those and whatever your expertise is and tips you have for moms on this idea of how to manage our day, our time. So I'm going to open it up to these wonderful ladies.
Mandy McAllister. There's a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And the idea of getting into deep work, once you get down there, you can knock out a ton of stuff. But man, if you are switching between a bunch of things, you never stay low enough in that deep concentrated work to get anything done. So this is why that time blocking thing, there's a freebie on my website, I'll get you the link, that is how I do my own time blocking. But when it comes to saying yes, people love to talk real estate, guys. So lots of people want to just pick my brain, right? So my limit to saying yes is I lean on Calendly, another tech thing. So if you want to get on my calendar, neat. But you're going to get a 15-minute block and I can only take 2 per day, right? So I lean on the technology to set those boundaries for me. And one last thing, if in doing your work, rather than thinking I should knock through this list of 142 things, think in outcome. If you think in the outcome that you need to create, I need to make my kid feel loved. What is the thing that would make my kid feel loved and seen, right? A note in his lunchbox would do that. Great, that's no extra time. What is something that would really move, make my tenants in my buildings feel good? An email to do something. So if you think outcomes rather than in a checklist, then you get way more impact way faster.
I'm Patrice, and I'm going to add on to Mandy here. I love those concepts of time blocking, and a book that I would recommend is The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. And that gives it's great for setting out your vision for your family vision and everything. And the 12-week year, it's condensing it down. Instead of setting a vision for a year, you're setting it for your vision and goals for the 12 weeks, or the 90 days to change a habit, or the 3 months time blocking. And then within that, so you've got your your bigger goal, and then you're moving into your weekly goal and your monthly goal, your weekly goals, and your daily goals. And I really like to set up my time blocks like as a 2-hour time block, two 1-hour time block, and then I'll take like a 15-minute break in between the 1 hour, and there's some flexibility in there, of course. And then after the working for 2 hours, take half hour and get completely away from any business or anything like that. And having that chunk there might be some parts of the business that you're hesitant to get going, or you don't really care for it. It's like, okay, just do it for an hour. Just do it for an hour. And then you'll be surprised that you get it done, and forming those habits. And with that, like, you need to communicate with your kids that this is the time and that you need their support because it's important to you, and you do not disturb. And I think it was Marjorie that says, unless it's an emergency, and that an emergency doesn't mean that you broke your favorite doll or something. It has to be something a little more than that. And if you can get your kids on board and really feeling like that, makes a tighter, supportive family. And and then I like to do the night before. I'll set out the 3 activities that I want to accomplish the next day. So I'm not waking up to just like a blank, okay, and you get started in your day and whatever is going to happen. And it's no, you've got these 3 things you want to accomplish. Forget about, I'll write down for my to-do list things that come up and yes, these need to be done, but I'm not looking at my to-do list. I'm looking at the 3 most important things I want to accomplish for the day, and being very conscious about that. There you go.
If I may jump in, or Tracy, did you want to go? You're more than welcome to.
Go.
I love what everybody is saying. I like to look at this from a public relations standpoint. What Mandy was talking about in terms of devoting chunks of time. From a PR standpoint, at the office, what we would do is we would timeline based on a strategy, looking at the short, medium, and long-term goals, defining whatever the tactics might be, and then executing with our team at the office. If we bring this home to our families as entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurial women, we say to ourselves, what do we need to accomplish in the next week or the next month or the next couple of months? Or maybe we just bite off a little piece and say, what do we need to accomplish today? And in that day, instead of saying, oh, I only have one day, look at that as 24 hours. And each hour you have 60 minutes. And then timeline it and choose what your priorities are for each of those hours during the course of the day. So it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And you can have those little successes to celebrate along the way. Now, what Ren was talking about was also really important because she needed support. So she gathered support. Just like we have a team at the office, or we have a team, like if we're freelancers, we have virtual teams, right, from around the world or from where have you. If we need support, we get support. That's what the team is for. Everybody has their skill set, everybody contributes. So if that's you, you know what I'm talking about. At home, your team might be your children. Susie's in charge of the diaper cream. Joey's in charge of bringing the diapers. Mary's in charge of setting the table. Everyone has a function, whether it's big or small, what have you. And then when it comes to those adult things that you need support on, your family, your friends, anybody who your child knows that you know and who they love, they know that you trust. So if somebody were to come to the school to say, you know, mommy's in trouble and they told me that we needed to pick you up, or mommy got hurt. And if they've never seen them before in their life, they know I always say, mommy doesn't have any friends. And go run to the principal and tell them that there's stranger danger. So ultimately, we want to bring these professional practices that you would do very, very naturally at the office, bring them home to support whatever you're doing with your family. That's how I see it from a public relations standpoint. And I hope that that helps you too at home.
Yep. Okay, I'll jump in. This is Tracy. I was going to respond to the to-do list because mine is a mile long, like I'm sure every woman's on here. And now Patrice could prioritize her 3 important ones and tackle them. And I finally came to the point that list was just so, daunting, and it would feel disappointing because I didn't get to the things that, I really, really wanted to do, heart-wise. But being in a business and all of a sudden I had employees and now I had taxes and I had payroll and stuff I didn't know anything about, and I'd have to spend time on that. Didn't necessarily feel good. It's like the parts, somebody said, the parts of your business that you don't want to do. So with the to-do list, I would have to stop and look at, okay, I didn't get those main things done today, but look what I did get done. And some of that might actually be related to family, not necessarily the business. And that, nope, I had to stop and go do this. I had to stop and, deal with that. And then when you're also working another job that's demanding, there was a whole lot accomplished in that today too. And I think we get, sometimes it's just like mental overwhelm. And the to-do list for me was getting to be like that. So I have a long list, but I'd kind of put it aside. And like, yes, I know there's stuff because it's all in your head. And then that gets to be, trying to remember this and that. So I did write just like every single thing. And that's what made a long to-do list. But I would write everything down so it would get out of my head and I could be reassured it is written down. It won't be forgotten. I may not get to it for a month, but it is written down so I can think about other things. And I think as women, coming up at a certain age, this the whole thing of multitasking and how good we are at it. But I think that really actually leads to burnout and that we're not being present and focused. And, yes, I pride myself on being able to stay up really late to get things done, because that would be the work time, but it also leads to burnout. So I think we have to be really nice to ourselves and look, I didn't have a day where I was just lying on the couch watching TV, although that would be good in some respects sometimes. But my whole day was busy doing things that got accomplished. So let's pat ourselves on the back for what we got done. Those things are there. They will always be there. That list never gets shorter. And that's just the reality, especially with an online business. These things just keep getting more bigger and more complicated. What used to be a fun little blog post just so I could stay in touch, now a blog post is like 1,000 words, and it's like to be found on, by by the internet gurus. I mean, they're dictating our life in such crazy ways, and I thought, I can't do that. I can't do that and stay sane. So pick out the parts that you are doing and pat yourself on the back and know that you are moving forward, even if it feels like it's just by inches.
Ah, here, Ren here. Oh, and I just, it made me think of something that I loved and really shifted my perspective when I was solo in Hawaii with my girls. And it's a concept from the something called the mental bank, and I've put my own flair on it called the inner bank. And the concept is paying yourself mentally for what you get done for the day. And I had used that tool for years, even prior to adopting children. And then when I put it in terms, because I was feeling really stressed out and doing all the stuff, and, kid is, gone during the day. And then the second she comes, my work day's over, so there was a lot of resentments, honestly, and stress. And when I started to do that banking process that I had done prior and paid myself, and this was the shift, I paid myself for being a mom. I paid myself my hourly, a nice hourly wage, because that's part of the exercise, though, driving to pick up a kid or to take a kid somewhere or going to family therapy. I paid myself for that family block because that was something to help my family. And so when I shifted, just doing that mental exercise completely shifted how I was looking, and especially around the resentments towards how much time it was taking to do the insignificant things. And I am so grateful for that switch. And then also, my other little caveat is people are recommending books. The 4-hour work week really shifted things for me when I was selling my petting zoo, to start thinking about the delegating and outsourcing and looking at, especially when you're a mom, if there's things that you can delegate in your business and just have somebody else doing and running for you, it makes such a difference. And so leaning on that, you can have an affordable assistant for less than the price of a family meal if you go out to eat. And so looking at those things on what brings you sanity and joy and helps run those balances. So those are the two things: looking at support in real life, and then really getting down to those resentments if you're feeling that stickiness, and changing that energy around.
Wow, this is Josie here. Ren, that's amazing that you said that, because those are exactly things I was thinking in my head during this whole conversation. So yay, I feel like I'm kind of on the same page as many of you, most of you, in fact, all of you in one way or another. I tend to be that mom who, or that entrepreneur even, who really, well, I am, not tend to be, I have an aversion to man-made constraints. So things like time, things like boundaries, things like limits. I like to be a little more whimsical and free flowing. And people have called me the hippie mompreneur before. And I used to really struggle with, well, I should be like this, and I should block, and I should time this, and there were a lot of shoulds that I had on myself, which then put me into resentment and denial and not liking my business when I was working on my business, and resenting the fact that I had children duties to do because now I can't work on my business because I was trying to live in a block that somebody else is successful in. And so what I learned was I need to learn strategies and I need to have the framework. So I leaned into people who I really loved their energy, their style, and then I took little tidbits to create my own work week, what would work for me, because all of our priorities are similar, but yet we're different people. And so things like time blocking does work for me. I know from the hours of 10 till 2, when my kids are safely at school, I've come home, I've taken care of myself, I fed the dogs, I went for a walk. Now I can start work. And then I have to be done so that I can go get the kids and be present for the kids. And I know that if I have a non-negotiable, that's the other thing, is write out my non-negotiables in my calendar. And those non-negotiables don't have to just be work related, like meetings. They can be things like my daughter has riding, my son has golf. We have these other things that we have to do. And sometimes I can't do it because I have a non-negotiable event, like a speaking event, like a mom panel, like things like that are very important to my business. And so then I lean into my community and ask my friend, hey, can you pick my kids up at the end of the school day because my meeting is going to run into that time? Or say to my husband, I know you can't, he's a school teacher, you can't take a day off of work for that, but could you please make sure you're home to cook supper because I have a late night call that I could only do at that time, or I have a client that can only meet me at 6 o'clock at night. So for me, it's about creating those non-negotiables, writing them in my calendar, having a framework, but within that framework, I can still be me. I don't have to try to be somebody else, because what might work for, Margie, who's amazing at the PR, might not be exactly me because we're different personalities. Or what might work for, Ren or any of the other ladies here might be kind of like, oh, I like that part of it. I'm going to take that and implement it into my framework. And what helps a lot for me is having those checklists, because although I am, like I said, I have the aversion to those man-made constraints, and I run when somebody tells me you have to do it this way. In case you haven't noticed, for those who are listening, I have pink and purple hair. Like, I'm a little bit on the whimsical side, that I do like to be different, but I realize that I have to work within some boundaries for my work, and getting good at saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't go for that coffee date because I have work to do. Or, sorry, I can't be in that event because my kids have something else that I have to do. So still having that framework, but relying on learning tidbits from all of the other people who I work with in business. And I'm not that lone wolf.
Wow, you ladies are so full of such great ideas. I want to recap a few for you as we start off with getting into that deep work, going deep down where you're actually in the mental space to complete the aspects you need to do. Because if you're not, then you're bouncing from ideas to ideas. That email that should take you 10 minutes is now going to take you 2 hours. And so really getting into making sure you're in the mental space to do the things you need to do. As Pat was saying, also the time blocking, right? Blocking out the times, but also setting aside, maybe that first half an hour of your time block is doing something you don't want to do. Making sure that's out of your way so then you can actually do the things that you want to do. Also, that to-do list gets way too long that we forget at the end of the day. So as Tracy was alluding to, I like the word a done list. So the end of the night, when you want to celebrate the things you did today, write down the things that you've done for the day to actually see that. So your brain actually goes, yes, I did these things. And I'd actually say take Pat's idea of putting the 3 things you want to do tomorrow, do that first. So that's out of your mind, but then celebrate yourself at the last thing you do is celebrate yourself for what you did do today. And not to forget that part, because then it gets you prepared for the next day. And we have that, and also that idea of also that support, gathering it. How do we do that? Again, find that support for you, whether it's delegating to your kids to do certain things. You need that mom support, finding a group like this group or a women's circle or something that lights you up, that keeps you, finding a mastermind that's niched on your business, finding whatever aspect you need to make sure that you don't stop. That's what the key is that we don't, women, I know we're in that self-worth, what is it aspect at times, but we're here to support that and say that this is not to give up, where we're, as Ren was saying, giving that mental bank, paying ourselves for the things that we are doing and using those frameworks from others. But as Josie was saying, modifying those so that we don't just think, oh, I have to do it because this is the way this person does it. I have to have this morning routine. No, you have to have the morning routine that works for you, that sets you up for your day, even if it's only 1 minute long. Doesn't necessarily have to be a 4-hour thing in the morning to get yourself set up. You figure out whatever gets you in the space to go deep into the dark work and to make sure you're in that as often as possible. So we're running close on time and we have like 4 other topics. So we're going to do a power round. Is what we're going to do is I have 5 more topics. So we're going to go around and I'm just going to throw a topic out at each one of our guests and you get whatever you get. And we're going to make these briefs, try to keep your answers to about a minute long. But I'm going to call on 2 people for the first one because I think it's one of the key ones is that financial pressure that we find ourselves under, not having that income regularity, setting prices and value servicing and how we budget and things like that. And just that whole financial aspects. I'm actually going to throw that out to Mandy because I know she's a key on this.
I mean, the reason I chose real estate investing is because it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You will always need a shelter. You know, you don't always need, you know, a tchotchke or a dress or what, you know, whatever the thing is, but you always need a place to live. So if real estate investing is interesting to some people, think about where you live. Like, can you live in a place and make it nicer and sell it? You get to keep $250,000 of that upside tax-free if you've improved the property. I've done that a couple of times, live in flips. That will change the trajectory of your ability to invest. But what I was able to do is I did the math of what does it take me to live my life. And I built a floor of that income that was really sustainable before choosing to leave a day job, right? So tchotchke is like a trinket of some sort, like that. Anything you'd buy on Etsy that you're going to put on a shelf and never look at it again, right? I made a little calculator for that too. I don't mean to throw all my freebies out there, but if, you know, for you to figure out how much money you actually need, do the math problem to, you know what it costs you to live your life. And then you're not easily, but you're going to have a target that you're going to be able to hit, again, beginning with the end in mind. So know what you need before you start to really go after something.
Ryan, I'm going to throw this one out to you as well.
Finances. Well, my company is Financial Freedom and Joy because I realized that the money didn't equal the happiness. And that was just a huge bam for me when I was going to have my business, and I had success very early in my 20s. And then when I became a mom, it all shifted. And that's when I realized, like, I had everything that I said that I wanted, and I didn't have that fulfillment. And so really looking, when we come into the financial aspects, it's we want fulfillment and the sustainability with it. And so it's looking at, I could get my dream house instantly, and if it was empty and no one to share it with and pretty icky, that wasn't exactly what my dream was in mind. And so it's once again tying to that balance and rhythm that we talked about. Maybe there's not balance, so the rhythm, and knowing that the money can sustain us, and doing the internal work to break free of a lot of the things. Like, there's a lot of internal things that we have to do if we really want to expand and grow beyond where we started. And that also comes down to our kids and looking at, the societal norms. Work harder for money. That's one of the huge statements. And yet, is that really the key to success? Because if you listen to a lot of the gurus, hard work is not the only exclusive way. And that's why a lot of people work so hard. And so looking at these realms and shifting to our kids about what makes them fulfilled and joyful, and then the money flows. So that's the shifting around for them and modeling by example.
I love that so much from the both of you. And I know Ren always recommends the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which really does give that perspective on that mental shift. Because again, it is always been, make sure I go to college, make sure I do this. Well, now, I mean, I'm not necessarily using my college education or degrees, and we're spending all this money on college, but it's not necessarily paying off like it used to, like just go work for a corporation. So you just need to rethink what works for you and your family and what you might want for your kids. And it may just be different than what you think we're supposed to do. And just being open to where your curiosity leads you down that path. Margie, I'm going to throw this one out to you about, we're going to move on to the guilt of, it's called work-life balance category, but we're going to look at that as terms of rhythm and that separation between professional and personal space, because you were touching on that really well with the PR parenting. So I'd love you to give us a little bit more tips on that and that pressure that we feel when we need to succeed in both, and how can we?
Well, I want to go back to the concept of timing for just a quick mini moment. There are real deadlines and then there's self-imposed deadlines. And we have to be able to figure out which one is which. A doctor's appointment is a real deadline. Getting your kids to school is a real deadline. Making your business meeting is a real deadline. And then there are the self-imposed deadlines. I need to finish this by such and such a time. Well, maybe you do, and maybe you don't. I need to finish the dishes. Well, guess what? They'll be there tomorrow. Or I have to finish the laundry. Well, if you need a specific item of clothing, then that is a real deadline. If you don't, it might be able to wait. Some people will say, no, you have to finish the dishes because you need to keep your kitchen clean. I have a routine where I do all the dishes once a day, and then whatever goes, goes until the very next moment on the next day when I do them all over again. So that's how I try to take some of the pressure off, is try to understand what the real deadline is, what the self-imposed deadline is, what can wait a little bit, what's truly urgent, and be, realistic about the whole thing. And again, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. And guess what? You know what? That's okay. We make mistakes at work. Hopefully nothing blows up. We make mistakes at home. Hopefully we don't burn the house down. Give, take, get support, and just give yourself a break. Take a deep breath and understand that you are doing the best that you can. And you are indeed making those real deadlines. And the ones that can wait, yeah, they can wait.
That's such
That's what I have
perspective.
to say. And in terms of recommending a book, by the way, in terms of recommending a book, I'm very, very surprised, and I'm going to do a shameless plug. May I do that? Yes, I'm getting 2 thumbs
Okay.
up. All right, nobody has mentioned my book, The Power of PR Parenting. Come on, ladies. This is ultimately the big picture theme of this, is to bring your superpowers home. And like Josie said, what works for one might not work for another. We all have our own vantages, right? And how we see things and what's going to be successful in our own communities. But the one thing that's universal are the questions. How do we handle this? How do we handle that? That's what might differ. But what we're approaching, the challenges, that stuff is the same. And that's what we address in this particular book. I'm done.
Michelle.
Michelle,
I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. I wasn't muted. I don't know what was going on. So I love how you put the deadlines versus self-imposed, because we do self-impose so much on ourselves and that pressure builds up so much. So we are running out of time. So I am going to just throw this out to our last 3 of the last 2 categories that we have. And again, we only have about a minute or so for each of you to answer. We have that idea that we've talked about both of these throughout already. So just your final quick takeaways on them is we have that idea of isolation and lack of support that we feel as moms. How do we rectify that? Along with that potential idea of burnout. So I'm going to throw it over to Josie to take whatever you want in your last feedback before we're then going to go around and then just share how everyone can get a hold of you and what you do to end this all up.
All right. So I found myself feeling like that, actually, especially post-pandemic, where it's like, oh my gosh, where do I go now? Because during the pandemic was when I shifted into more of the entrepreneurship, because I couldn't work with my hands as a practitioner. So afterwards, once we were able to kind of get back in there, I still felt very isolated, because I did devote my whole time to my kids, the homeschooling, to building, somewhat of his business. And what I found was, if I could just not dive 100%, I'm a workaholic, that I just want to dive either into all of my work or dive all of my life into my kids. So for me to realize that I can actually go to my kids' school, do a little volunteering. I go 3 times a week, volunteer, do their snack program for about an hour and a half, meet the community that I'm around, still be present for my kids, because even though I'm not in their classroom, they still know mom's there. They feel connected to me. I feel connected to them, to the community, meeting other moms, meeting the staff, the teachers. It's really good for business too. And then I can go back home and feel like I fulfilled something that was, even if it's just for me, so that I can be present with the rest of my work and the rest of my community and my kids. So that connection was huge. And it's only 1 hour, 3 days a week. And the rest of the time I have to be able to devote to my family and my kids and my business.
What a good reminder, just 1 hour a week. Pat, what's your final words on these topics?
I had to learn that, again, that idea that, oh, I'm supposed to do this or I have to do this. And when I could just say, I'm going to do what I do, get done what I get done, and I'm all right with that. And what a change. It took all the stress and pressure. And yeah, so that's my big mantra there, is that I'm all right with that.
I'm all right with that. I love it. Tracy, what are your final words?
So having come of age, in the beginning of the women's movement in the 70s, and this whole thing of pushing up against the glass ceiling and that women can have it all and women need to do it all, I think is exhausting. And I think what we have to realize is that your kids, while you have them, even though it's feeling like overwhelming, it's a really short part of your life. And they're not going to be with you or that age for very long. And Michelle, you started off the show talking about the in-betweeners. And that's where I think, you have kids and nobody's taught you how to have a family. And that itself can be isolating. And you just have the kids in their school and that's it. That's your community at that point. And being an entrepreneur can be very lonely and isolating. So you're trying to do two really hard things. And let's accept that those are hard things that you're doing and trying to marry them. And just realize, just like when you had your kids, the diaper phase gets over, potty training gets over. I mean, but the thing is, your kids move on to other phases and you're behind all the time of catching up with them. So try to enjoy this time with them and not pushing. Yes, the financial pressures can be a lot, but that time of your life isn't going to last forever. And you're going to have a whole lot of freedom and you don't want to miss that part of it. So that's what I'm saying. We ate 2 casseroles during the week. Not fun. Did all my shopping on Sundays. Did all the chopping for lunches. Did all that stuff on Sundays. Did I enjoy it? No. But you know what? It made it less crazy during the week. So find the things that work for you, like everybody's been saying. Take pressure off of one area, but realize this time of your life isn't going to last forever.
Well, that's so true. This time will not last forever, and really embracing that with your kids where they're at now, which actually leads us into our topic for next month, which actually is kid entrepreneurship and really taking them alongside of you. I did a podcasting workshop a couple weekends ago. My 13-year-old actually attended it, and he is now all in to create his own podcast. And so it's also inviting them to find their genius and what they're good at. And I can't wait for him to release it and the experience that he's getting from it. And I think that's what this is all about, is it not necessarily even he'll be my greatest testimony is that which I'm giving back is through them, and being able to do that together and making sure that we're spending our time together and doing the things that we both love together. Because I did not put pressure on him to. This came from him wanting to do it, but opening the doors and giving them opportunities. My daughter wants to write more, so I'm spending time trying to write with her. So it's whatever they want to do, just opening those doors with them as part of your own entrepreneurship. So that will lead us into next month. As we wrap up today, we're going to start with Mandy, and just tell us how people can get a hold of us and your last final takeaway for everyone, your last tip for everyone as we finish up this panel.
Community
Thank you for
matters
coming.
so much. Thank you for the invitation. And I think we've said it 100 different ways, but when you feel crazy being the only one in your kid's life, you feel crazy being an entrepreneur because you're the only one doing the thing that you're doing. If you get around people doing the things that you want to do, that you are doing, you feel less crazy and you get a lot more support, right? So community is so huge. Michelle, thank you for what you do here. Best way to get a hold of me and Go Abundance Women and all of the stuff that I'm up to is to go to my website, mandymcallister.com.
Well, thank you so much. The one thing I wanted to add that I forgot as we were talking was about getting your family also involved in your entrepreneurship. I know I haven't been as successful at it, but I was talking to a mom who actually like had a chart in her house of like calls she had to make and having gifts like prizes for them as they help support, knowing that this might get them a trip to Disneyland, knowing this might do these things so that they can visually see where your business is going. That's something I'm working towards doing, but I just want to throw that out there because it was such a great idea as we were talking about all those things, is incorporating this all into it. It doesn't have to be one or the other anymore. And I think that's what it comes down to. So Josie, let everyone know how they can get a hold of you.
All right. Well, the best way to get a hold of me currently is through Facebook. That's kind of where I hang out mostly. Same name, Josie Loporto Freeborn. You can find me on Instagram under the same Josie L Freeborn. And my business is where I work integratively in a holistic fashion with women who are working to be entrepreneurs, who want to crush that guilt. And so I help them through that process. And that's why this topic was so near and dear to me, because I've seen so many women need that. So find me over on Facebook, and I'm going to drop a link too to be able to have a free call with me just to talk about maybe what you need to find out about yourself in entrepreneurship and try to balance, quote unquote, I'm using that word in quotations, your own unique super skills as a mom with your business.
Oh, I love that so much. Margie, what is your final tip and how can people get a hold of you?
My final tip is once again, bring your whole self wherever you go. It's a lot less exhausting, and keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. Okay. Just keep focused and do your thing. You're going to be great. And you can find me at Margie Haddad on Instagram, also on Facebook, and also on LinkedIn, and www.prfor.life. And I'm happy to be of service to anybody who wants to learn this new approach called PR parenting. And by the way, PR is a common denominator for just about everybody out there who needs to and wants to and has to communicate with anyone.
Thank you so much for being on here today, Margie. Pat, what is your final takeaway and how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me at either thegardeninggrandma.com or patriceporter.online. And my takeaway is as we're growing and becoming the entrepreneurs and doing what is fulfilling to us and living that fulfilling life, having purpose, the kids are watching. They're seeing that all. We're the models for them. And it always is very heartwarming when you see that it's rubbed off on your kids and they too can have that fulfilling life.
Thank you so much for being on here. Ren, I'd love to hear from you and how people can get a hold of you.
Hello. Well, you can connect with me. It's your YOURFFJ, which is for financial freedom and joy. You can also find the FFJ Entrepreneurs Facebook group. It's a free group and community for business owners who are seeking more financial freedom and joy. I definitely help people with their technology too, so their business runs smoothly, more automatically, and they can make more money. And that's a definite tip for our moms, is to rely on where technology can help you, and a lot of free and amazing resources for you to have more joy.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ren. And Tracy, how can people get a hold of you?
So it's tracycheney.com, and that's TracyCheney. And I do really love getting out a message to parents of little kids of what you need to be doing to get ready for school. Because aside from having entrepreneurial businesses and being online for a lot of years now, we still can't lose track of our kids and the human element. And so I just want to say, moms, that you're doing both of these things. Give yourself a pat on the back. Go get your nails done. Just realize that you are special trying to do two hard things simultaneously.
I am just so appreciative of all of you today. And again, I'm Michelle, your host at connectingmamas.com. And really, I'm all about finding the genius in you and inspiring it in your kids. So especially getting that message out to all of you. And we'll see you in the next episode combined with the Mama's Workshop as we do Kidpreneur I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.